Welcome back, listeners, to Red Hunt, where I scour the depths of relationship Reddit to bring you the juiciest and most thrilling stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. So grab your popcorn and let's dive right in. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more. Am I the antagonist for not agreeing to share a hotel room in Vegas with my sister-in-law? My wife, 38 years old, and I, 38 years old, are regular parents with demanding jobs and hectic kids. Dana has two close friends, Shauna and Samantha, who live in different states. Shauna recently asked my wife if she wanted to participate in a half marathon in Las Vegas. When Dana mentioned the Vegas trip, I jokingly said that I had never been there and she shouldn't go twice before I had the chance to go once. Surprisingly, she asked if I meant it, and I said yes. Afterwards, she agreed to work it out. Samantha and Dina's sister also decided to join. However, later on, I changed my mind because I didn't want to feel like a third wheel on a trip with only girls. Few days after I backed out, my wife found out that Samantha's husband, Jim, was going and asked if I still wanted to go. I enthusiastically agreed. A week later, my wife asked me, "Are you okay with sharing a room with my sister?" I responded, "No, I'm not okay with that. Why would we share a room?" She explained that it would save us and her sister some money if we shared a room. Apparently, Shauna was going to share a room with Samantha and Jim. I said, "Everyone going on this trip, except your sister, makes a lot of money. So why should we share a room to save money? Why can't Shauna share a room with your sister? Why should we sacrifice our privacy?" My wife disagreed and we argued about it without resolving anything. The more I thought about it, the more upset I became. We don't go on enough dates, and we've never been away from our kids for more than one night. Why would she be fine with eliminating any chance of intimacy during a 4-day trip without kids? A week later, I asked her thoughts on our Vegas trip. She explained that we wouldn't be spending much time in our room anyway. During her last girls' trip, they only used their rooms to sleep. She considered this a girls' trip, and Jim coming along meant I would have someone too, but it didn't change the fact that it was predominantly a girls' trip. I argued that having our own room and privacy wouldn't change the dynamics of the trip, but it would at least create an opportunity for intimacy between us, which was important to me. Again, she disagreed. During the argument, my wife admitted that she had agreed to share a room without even consulting me. She said someone had suggested it in their text conversation, and she replied with, "I don't care." We didn't speak for a couple of days after that fight. When we eventually made up, she informed me that she had informed the group that we wouldn't be sharing a room anymore. She thinks I am at fault for imposing my will on her. However, I believe she is at fault for agreeing to share a room without involving me, trying to justify it, and disregarding the significance of intimacy in our relationship. So, am I the asshole? It seems like there was a miscommunication between you and your wife regarding sharing a room during the trip. Both of you have valid points, but in the end, it's important to prioritize open communication and compromise in a relationship. It's good that you were able to resolve the issue and come to an agreement that works for both of you. Am I the antagonist for going to baby-related events without my wife? My wife and I, aged 36 and 34 respectively, have been struggling with infertility since we started trying for children 6 years ago. About 2 years in, we attempted fertility treatments including one round of in vitro fertilization, IVF. But they had a terrible effect on my wife's emotional stability, and we decided to stop. We considered adoption, but couldn't agree on how to proceed. My wife wanted to adopt an infant, but I didn't feel comfortable with the industry surrounding infant adoptions. I was interested in fostering a couple of kids, but my wife felt it would be too painful, which I completely understand. We had other disagreements about family planning, and all of that greatly impacted our marriage. We are still working on recovering and repairing the damage, but I remain hopeful. I have a close group of childhood friends, some of whom are currently going through different stages of parenthood. Since we started trying for children, my wife has become increasingly hostile towards these friends. Currently, my childhood best friend, Clyde, 33M, and his wife, Ann, 28EF, are expecting their first child. They have been incredibly sensitive to our situation. Clyde reached out to me via text, giving us a 2-week notice before sharing the news with others. They even chose to inform people individually, without any big social media or in-person announcement. Anne's pregnancy has been going well, but unfortunately, my wife now has a strong dislike for her. She has said awful things about other women who have had children in our presence, but the things she says about Anne, and even to her, are unacceptable. I have apologized deeply to my friends, but my wife believes that any attention I give them is a betrayal of our marriage. Last week, I had dinner at Clyde and Anne's house. This was the first time I saw them since Anne's pregnancy. My wife and I fought before I left because she suddenly decided that day that I should not celebrate another woman's pregnancy. Although she had plans for the evening as well, she chose to cancel them last minute and demanded that I do the same. However, I couldn't bring myself to cancel. I miss my friends, so I went, and she has not spoken to me since. The guilt I feel for going is overwhelming, but I also resent her for expecting me not to. The truth is, I genuinely want to be there for my friends. I want to attend baby showers and first birthdays. The children in our group see me as an extended uncle, and I care for each of them individually. Being a part of their lives brings me immense joy. I fear that if I give up these friendships, I will grow to resent my wife bitterly. I understand that, for the sake of everyone involved, I cannot and will not bring my wife along until she has received a significant amount of therapy. Am I the asshole for continuing to engage with my friends' kids when my wife is struggling so much? It's understandable that your wife is struggling with infertility and that it has taken an emotional toll on her. However, her hostility towards your friends and their kids, especially Anne, is unfair. It's important for you to maintain your friendships and be there for your friends during their important milestones. As long as you're supportive and understanding towards your wife's feelings, it's not wrong to engage with your friends' kids and seek happiness in those relationships. Am I the antagonist for telling someone in a wheelchair that they have to wait their turn for the handicap bathroom? Recently, my family and I were on a road trip with our 2 young children, a 10-month-old and a 3-year-old. Our youngest, who is 10 months old, is prone to diaper rash. So when it became apparent that he had a soiled diaper, we decided to stop at a rest stop to change him. Upon entering the women's bathroom at the rest stop, I noticed that there was only one stall equipped with a changing table, and it happened to be the handicap stall. Unfortunately, that stall was occupied, so I waited outside for it to become available. Just as the stall opened up, a woman in a wheelchair entered the bathroom and politely asked me to wait for her to use it first, since she needed the handicap stall. By that point, I had already been waiting for about 5 minutes with my son, who was fussy and in need of a diaper change. I explained to the woman that the only stall with a changing table was the handicap stall, and I had been waiting for the opportunity to change my son. I assured her that I would be quick and proceeded to enter the stall to change his diaper. While I was inside, I overheard the woman complaining to others that I had been rude and discriminating against her because of her disability by using the handicap stall. It took me approximately 2 minutes to complete the diaper change, after which I exited the stall, allowing her to use it. As I was leaving, she made a remark, saying, "I hope you feel good about yourself, taking a handicap stall from someone who actually needs it." In response, I reminded her that the handicap stall also serves as the only option for parents to change their babies on a table, and I had every right to use it. Despite this, she scoffed at me and proceeded to use the stall. This whole interaction has been bothering me, even though I believe I did nothing wrong. So I'm turning to you to ask, am I the asshole for asking a handicapped woman to wait for me to change my child's diaper? You had a legitimate reason to use the handicap stall with the changing table since your baby needed a diaper change, and it was the only option available. The woman's request for you to wait was unreasonable considering the circumstances, and her assumption that you were discriminating against her was unfounded. You handled the situation appropriately and prioritized your child's needs. Am I the antagonist for not paying our electric bill and let it get cut? My husband and I currently live in my parents' ancestral house on my mother's side. My mother is retired and receives a monthly pension, while my father works in real estate and still earns an income. Along with us, my uncle, who has a job, and my aunt, who is mentally ill and has no income, also live with us. Additionally, my older sister's family of 6 is staying with us. I have a well-paying job, and since my husband and I earn more than we need, everyone in the household expects us to cover all expenses. My uncle often states that we should take care of them since we live in their house rent-free. While I feel obligated to contribute, my sister does not. I am responsible for paying our utility bills and buying groceries. When my sister asked to live with us, she promised to share the utilities and cook separately using her own gas stove. However, none of this has happened. They never contribute anything, and their children often ask us for food since their parents don't provide them with money for meals. They are reluctant to share because they know I earn significantly more than them. Every day, my sister and uncle receive daily deliveries, which bothers me. They claim they don't have money to contribute to household expenses, yet their online purchases continue non-stop. Sometimes, I even end up paying for these purchases when the packages arrive unexpectedly early, and they don't have the money to pay for them. They never reimburse me. My sister and her partner purchase their own vehicles, each with monthly payments, but they still owe me money for it. Ever since my mother found out how much money I earn a few years ago, this situation has been ongoing. In October, I informed my mom that starting in June 2023, we would split the bills. I offered to pay 70% of the utilities and limit the grocery expenses since most of the food we purchased would disappear without our knowledge. I believed this division was fair since the remaining 30% would be divided among the 3 families. However, when the June bill arrived, my mom asked me to pay it first, and they would reimburse me later. This pattern continued, and they never paid me back. As a result, when the September bill arrived, I stood firm and refused to pay it until they contributed their share. Consequently, when the October bill arrived, we received a disconnection notice. My mom asked if I had paid the September bill, and I told her no since I was still waiting for their share. The next day, my sister came and paid half of the September bill. So I paid for September but not for October. Fast forward to December, and they noticed that I hadn't paid the bill for 3 months, October-December. I explained that I was waiting for their share before paying the bill. One afternoon, we lost power, and I knew what it meant. I stayed in our room and said nothing. I messaged my husband to ask his brother if we could stay at his place for a few days. We ended up moving out, and now I feel guilty because I know they are staying in a hot and dark house. Am I in the wrong for allowing our electricity to be cut and refusing to pay even though I could afford it? It's completely unfair for your family members to expect you to cover all the expenses, especially when you're already contributing to utilities and groceries. They should be responsible for their own share. You made it clear that you were waiting for them to pay, so it's not your fault that the electricity got cut. It's time for them to learn to be more responsible and contribute to the household. Am I the antagonist for hosting my best friend over my mom for my med school graduation? My mom and I were once very close, but things changed when I moved away for college. Whenever I had time off, she expected me to visit her and would get upset if I spent that time with my husband and friends instead. She made me feel guilty, and I gradually realized that if I hadn't moved away and spent time with my peers, I might have never truly grown up. I understand that I am her only child, and I assumed it was just the empty nest syndrome. I would return for holidays, and she would come to my sporting events frequently. It was nice to have a supportive parent there. However, things escalated when I started medical school. My free time significantly decreased, even during holidays when I still had to study. My mom didn't grasp the importance of my studies and how busy I had become. She constantly guilt-tripped me about spending less time with her. Although I continued with sports, I stopped competing because it became too overwhelming. Yet she persisted in pressuring me to compete since it was our only opportunity to spend time together. I attempted to balance both in my first year but realized it was unsustainable, especially when studying in places with poor internet access. We had a major argument, and I established boundaries. Unfortunately, my mom didn't take me seriously and attempted to manipulate me, claiming that I was so smart and could afford to take time away from studying to have fun with her. I reached my breaking point and cut off contact with her for a few months before she finally came to her senses, perhaps with the help of my dad, my stepdad who adopted me after they married. They divorced during my second year of medical school, just 2 months after I married my husband. When my mom crossed a very clear boundary I had set regarding prioritizing my education over competing in her sport, we had yet another fight. She said hurtful things, including blaming me for her marriage to my stepdad because she wanted me to be taken care of. Essentially, she blamed me for her unhappiness. I believe witnessing the happiness I found with my husband, who is my best friend and biggest supporter, pushed her over the edge. Now, I'm only 4 months away from graduating, and we have a spare bedroom in our condo. My dad has always been supportive throughout my education and acted as the voice of reason. He assumed I would choose my mom over him to stay with me and booked a hotel for the graduation weekend. Meanwhile, my college best friend has been incredibly supportive and wants to be there to witness my graduation. I want her to stay with me because she's one of my closest friends, and it's been over a year since we last saw each other. When I told my mom that my friend would be staying with me, she became extremely upset. It became apparent that my mom expected to stay with me and her new boyfriend at my condo. Hosting her would make my graduation experience less enjoyable, but she is still my mom. So, am I wrong for saying no to her? It's your graduation and you have every right to have whoever you want stay with you, especially your best friend who has been supportive throughout your education. Your mom should respect your boundaries, especially after all the guilt-tripping and manipulation in the past. It's your special day, so prioritize your own happiness and don't let her make it uncomfortable for you. My wife is texting her school colleague all day every day and spends lots of time with him. We have been married for approximately 3 years and recently relocated to a different part of the country so that my wife could attend graduate school. In the new location, I found a full-time job and have been the primary financial provider for us. Lately, my wife has been spending a lot of time on her phone. I have asked her several times who she is constantly texting, and she claims it is just a friend from school. However, whenever I inquire further, she becomes defensive. Unsure of what else to do, I unfortunately decided to look through her phone and discovered that she has been texting a male classmate non-stop throughout the day and into the night. These conversations last from 7 a.m. to 12 a.m. every day. While the texts seem innocent overall without any sexual content, there are a few things that are bothering me. I went back to the beginning of their conversation and noticed a couple of issues. Firstly, this texting started when my wife asked a friend for this guy's number and began texting him out of the blue. Secondly, she is always the one initiating the conversation, and she double texts him every time he stops responding. I wish I were exaggerating. Additionally, I have never met this guy, do not know his age or what he looks like. Although the content of their conversations appears innocent, she often texts him just to start a conversation and frequently shares details about her school-related struggles. It also seems like they spend a lot of time together at school, playing a card game. There have been instances when she has even left our dinner early to go back to school and play cards with him. She invites him to spend one-on-one time in various settings, including school, bars, and elsewhere. She even invited him to join her and her parents at a bar when they were in town. Furthermore, she went as far as baking cookies specifically for this guy. She loves baking, and I remember one day she made a type of cookies she had never made before. While I assumed she was baking them for a party she was going to that night, the texts revealed that she baked them exclusively for this guy. What makes it worse is that she went through the trouble of doing this I had the car that night, so she walked to the store in the rain to buy the ingredients, baked the cookies, and spent 2 hours at his apartment. She did go to the party afterward, but only stayed for a few minutes to say hello to a few people before leaving. One aspect that has made me somewhat insecure is the fact that my profession does not pay particularly well. Before meeting me, she had lived a very privileged lifestyle supported by her parents, and she is currently studying for a profession that generally yields much higher income than mine, approximately 5 times more. Even her summer internship will pay more than my annual salary. Notably, this guy she is texting is in the same profession. Reading these messages made me feel extremely upset. I wanted to share this situation here to see if anyone else finds it suspicious. I am unsure if anything physical has occurred, but she has definitely crossed some boundaries. How should I handle this? That definitely sounds fishy. It's understandable that you're feeling insecure about the situation, especially considering the amount of time she's spending texting and hanging out with this guy. It might be worth having an open and honest conversation with her to express your concerns and see if you can find some resolution. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.